12 countries are chasing black people, but not in the way. You think you could be hunted just because of your skin color, not by police, not for a crime, but by distant governments sending formal invitations, asking you only one thing. When are you moving to live with us? Sounds like fiction? It's not. This is a real policy happening across the world, from Africa to Latin America, from Asia to the Caribbean. There are countries that don't see you as a stranger, but as someone coming home. South Africa, where you're not defined by your skin color. South Africa is not a perfect place, but here, you're not defined by your skin color. In a country where over 80% of the population is black, you don't have to ask for permission just to exist. In Johannesburg or Cape Town, modern cities with deep historical fractures, black people are not just citizens, but agents of transformation. They run businesses, lead social movements, and are voices in media, politics, and education. Of course, South Africa still wrestles with ghosts of the past. Wealth gaps, unemployment, and the legacy of apartheid have left deep cracks. But that's exactly why injustice isn't hidden, and certainly not masked under a fake multicultural facade like in many other places. An African American who once lived in Washington, D.C. said, "In the U.S., I'm a black person who works. Here, I'm just a person who works." That may sound simple, but it's the result of a long journey through identity struggles. And in South Africa, you don't have to disappear in order to be called a part of society. If you've ever lived somewhere your skin color decided how others saw you, do you think you'd feel different living in South Africa? Do you believe a society where black people are the majority can give a stronger sense of belonging? Share your thoughts in the comments. Ghana, not immigration, but homecoming. In many places, black people are allowed to live, but in Ghana, they are invited to return. Not through slogans, but through policy. Right of return, a formal invitation from the Ghanaian government to African descendants displaced by slavery and forced migration. English is the official language. The cost of living is low, and most importantly, you don't need to find a community, because here, the community has been waiting. Many African Americans from Atlanta to Toronto have moved to Ghana to open cafes, schools, farms, companies, not as foreign investors, but as people rebuilding what was once stolen. A woman who once lived in Baltimore shared, "I don't feel like I immigrated. I feel like I returned and was recognized." Ghana doesn't grant acceptance. It calls you back like family, even if you've never met. Brazil, where being black is not an exception. In Brazil, you're not different. You're part of a picture that's always been there. With over 50% of the population being black or mixed race, this country doesn't view skin color as a category, but as a natural part of society. Afro-Brazilian culture doesn't sit on the sidelines. It's central to music, food, religion, and festivals. From the drums of candomblé ceremonies in Bahia to the samba steps in Rio's streets, you won't feel like you're joining in, because everything is already there for you to melt into. Brazil doesn't hide racial inequality, but neither does it hide the beauty and strength of the black community. You can settle easily through a small investment or by marriage. Living costs in places like Salvador or Recife are reasonable, and most importantly, you won't be seen as an outsider. An African-American activist once said, "For the first time, I saw a country where black people aren't just struggling to survive. They are living, loving, creating, and leading." Brazil doesn't promise perfection, but it does promise one simple thing. You have the right to belong. Kenya, you're not out of place among your own people. In many countries, black people may be the statistical majority, yet still pushed to the margins of social and economic life. Kenya is different. Here, English is the official language. Infrastructure is rapidly developing, and cities like Nairobi and Mombasa showcase a blend of tradition and modernity, of energy and ease. You don't have to prove yourself to fit in, because you're stepping into a society built by people who look like you. From creative hubs in Nairobi to the warm shores of Mombasa, you'll easily find business opportunities, supportive communities, and most of all, a sense of being exactly where you belong. Kenya doesn't create illusions of paradise, but it offers something many spend a lifetime seeking: normalcy in one's own identity. Senegal, Africa's open-armed door of return. 12 countries are chasing black people, but not in the way you think. And Senegal is one of the pioneers of that invitation, not through words, but through action. Senegal is not just a travel destination, it's a historical symbol, an invitation from both the past and the present. In Dakar, a vibrant city on the Atlantic coast, you'll find cafes, art centers, and bustling markets full of laughter. But not far away lies Gorée Island, once a departure point for millions of enslaved Africans. Today it's a pilgrimage site, not to relive pain, but to reclaim identity. The Senegalese government hosts the Door of Return initiative, a political and cultural declaration. Black people are not wanderers without a homeland. You're invited back, not to start over, but to continue a journey severed by violence and separation. Senegal speaks French, has a reasonable cost of living, and warm, welcoming locals. Many African descendants from the US, France, and the Caribbean have chosen this place to rebuild their lives, not by rejecting the past, but by embracing it. Here, I don't live between two worlds. I stand on the very ground that connects them. Shared a Haitian woman after moving to Dakar. Panama, close to the US, but a different reality. Panama doesn't promise a paradise for black people, but it gives you something America sometimes can't: the right to breathe without being watched. Using the US dollar, with a friendly nations policy, Panama makes the resettlement process for US citizens an open door, not a wall to climb. Here, people of African descent aren't a small, separate group. They are a visible part of the country's cultural, economic, and historical fabric. From coastal towns on the Caribbean to the vibrant neighborhoods of Panama City, you'll see Afro-Latino music, food, and rhythms as a natural presence, not something that needs permission. The cost of living is low. The tropical climate is year-round. Business opportunities in import-export, logistics, tourism, and tech are growing every day. I didn't leave America because I hated it. I came to Panama because, for the first time, I felt I had the power to choose where to call home, said a black entrepreneur who once lived in Miami. Panama doesn't replace the US, but for many people of color, it offers a less exhausting, yet still promising version of life. The Gambia, small in size, vast in welcome. The Gambia isn't the kind of country you often see on travel brochures. But for many black people from the US, Canada, or Europe, this is where life begins without having to brace yourself. As one of the English-speaking nations in West Africa, the Gambia is welcoming in both language and spirit. Visas are easy to obtain, and rent ranges from $150 to $300 per month, enough to live comfortably without being strangled by Western urban prices. But more precious is the feeling of blending in, not fitting in by sacrificing your identity. From Banjul to riverside villages, more and more black people are returning here, buying land, farming, opening cafes, schools, and community projects, not as foreign investors, but as people seeking healing. I don't need to explain why I chose the Gambia. This place welcomed me with everything I carried, both history and hope. Shared a woman of African descent from New Jersey after 2 years of living here. The Gambia is small, peaceful, and unpretentious, but sometimes it's the quietest places where you hear your own calling the loudest. Barbados. When the government sends you an invitation to truly live. Barbados doesn't just invite you to vacation, it invites you to live, work, and belong through a policy called the Welcome Stamp. Sounds like a typical remote work program? Not quite. Because what makes it different is the context and the intention. Barbados is the first black-majority independent country in the Caribbean to transition to a republic, officially breaking away from colonial monarchy. And now, through the welcome stamp, it's not just calling tech, creative, or education professionals for a one-year stay. It's actively reshaping the concept of home for the global African diaspora. No citizenship required, no massive investment needed. Just proof of stable income and remote work, and you can live on a safe, English-speaking island with a friendly community, where you don't have to hide the story behind your skin. Barbados didn't ask why I came. They just asked, "What do you need to stay?" Shared a Black American software engineer after relocating through the program. The welcome stamp is more than a visa. It's a political statement. Global Black people deserve the right to choose a lighter life, and Barbados is ready to be the starting point. Portugal, a European door that doesn't slam shut on Black people. While many European countries tighten borders, raise language barriers, and build walls of bias, Portugal offers a different path, quiet, steady, and humane. The D7 visa program, designed for those with passive income or remote work, is a clear reflection of that. No major investment required, no judgment on where you come from. As long as you can support yourself and aim to live decently, Portugal welcomes you as a full resident. Unlike common images of Europe, this is a country with significantly less racial tension. In Lisbon, Porto, or the coastal towns of the Algarve, you'll easily find African origin communities. From Angola, Cabo Verde to the US and UK, living, working, opening shops, teaching, creating art. They're not being assimilated. They're becoming part of a vibrant multicultural society in the making. Public health care is solid. The cost of living is easier than most of Western Europe. And more importantly, you don't have to live in constant self-defense. Here, I don't get ID checked every time I walk into a store. I don't have to lower my voice, change my style, or explain what I'm doing in this neighborhood. Shared a teacher of African descent from Chicago after 6 months in Lisbon. The D7 visa isn't just an immigration opportunity. It's an offer to build a life not policed by skin color. Belize, where your skin isn't unfamiliar. Belize isn't famous in global relocation campaigns, but sometimes it's the places rarely mentioned where your voice is heard the clearest. Located on the Caribbean coast, English-speaking, and home to a deeply rooted Afro-Caribbean culture, Belize doesn't see you as a successful exception, but as a natural part of society. Here you can rent a seaside home for $400 to $700 a month, walk a few minutes to the local market, eat fresh fruit daily, and chat with neighbors who share your curls, people who don't ask where you're from, only if you're doing okay. The Belizean government doesn't make it hard either. The relocation and retirement programs are simple, with no large asset requirements. If you want to live well, they're ready to open the door. I don't need to live in a massive city to feel like I've made it. I just need a place where my existence doesn't provoke a reaction. Shared a Black artist who moved from Los Angeles to Placencia. Belize doesn't carry the image of a promised land like other countries, but for many Black people, this is where you don't have to try to just be yourself. Malaysia, an Asia that doesn't shut you out. On the global relocation map for Black people, Malaysia often isn't a top pick, but that's exactly what gives it unique value. You're not expected to be someone else, just to be accepted. With the Malaysia My Second Home MM2H program, the government not only allows foreigners to settle long-term, but has built a clear, transparent system without the silent discrimination seen in many developed nations. Modern infrastructure, affordable living, and a deeply rooted multi-ethnic society made up of Malays, Chinese, and Indians, making Malaysia one of the rare Asian countries where diversity isn't treated as abnormal. In Kuala Lumpur or Penang, you'll find people of color teaching at international universities, working in creative fields, IT, or healthcare, not boxed into only respectable if educated or stay quiet to stay safe roles. Malaysia doesn't ask about my origins. They care what I do, how I live, and that's enough. Shared a media professional of African descent living in Penang. Malaysia doesn't sell the image of paradise. It gives you a reality. You can be different without being excluded. Costa Rica, where skin color isn't something to guard against. No military, no sirens, no constant fear of getting pulled over just because of your skin. Costa Rica has refused to invest in war since 1948, and instead invested in healthcare, education, environment, and real peace of mind. In Caribbean coastal areas like Limon, you'll find a long-standing Afro-Caribbean community, descendants of Jamaicans who came here to work in the 19th century, now an essential part of Costa Rica's identity. They run businesses, preserve culture, and open their arms to Black brothers and sisters from around the world. Costa Rica's immigration policies are relatively open. The cost of living is moderate. You don't need a fortune to live a peaceful life. And here, you won't be pressured to upgrade your life on a Western timeline. You can live slow, deep, and full. I didn't choose Costa Rica to hide. I chose it because here, I can exist, not be stared at, not be suspected, not have to ask for peace. Shared a Black doctor formerly based in New York. Costa Rica doesn't need to prove it respects Black lives. It lets you live, and that is the clearest proof of all. None of the countries on this list are perfect paradises, but they all share one thing in common. They open their doors so you can live in your identity without trading it in. This video is for informational purposes only and does not replace legal or official immigration advice. If you believe topics like this should reach more people, hit subscribe, because sometimes one video can shift the entire direction of a life.